The rising demand of data analysts in today's market highlights the importance of learning data analytics for programming. To help you grasp the essential, I've created this tutorial to provide a concise overview. In this tutorial, we'll delve into creating sample data for housing pricing, including details like house size and price. Additionally, we'll intentionally introduce anomalies to simulate real-world data challenges. Our goal will be to identify and resolve these anomalies using Pandas. We'll leverage numpy to generate arrays to store our housing prices and sizes. Finally, we'll use matplotlib to visualize this data through graphs. You'll gain insights into all these topics in a single video. But before we dive in, if you are new to this channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button to stay updated to my latest uploads. And I have a full Python course for beginners. Just click the link in the description below. Now let's work with some data. Before we start, make sure you have numpy, pandas, and matplotlib installed on your machine. So you can simply head over to your search button over here, or you can click on your Windows logo. Then you can type cmd to open command prompt. So this is my command prompt. So I'll click on open to open my command prompt. So I have my command prompt open over here. So I can simply use pip freeze, so pip freeze, and then I'll press enter. Then I'll go through all my packages. So I have matplotlib, I have pandas over here, and then I have my numpy over here. So I already have matplotlib, pandas, and I have numpy installed on my machine. If you don't have them, so let me show you CLS to clear everything. So if you don't have them, just use pip install. So pip install, then you can install numpy, then you can install pandas, and then we can install matplotlib. Then you press enter. But since I have everything installed, I'll simply cancel this, and then we'll proceed with our video. So let me close this. And now I'll right click, then I'll create a new folder. So I can call the folder data analytics. Let's build data analytics. So it's a data analytics. So I have my data analytics folder over here. Then what I want to do is I'll use Excel to create a demo data. Then we'll try to clean the data with pandas and also read the data. Then we'll use numpy and matplotlib to create a graph for our data. So I'll click over here, my Windows logo, then I'll search for Excel. So make sure you have Excel installed on your PC. Then I'll double click to open my Excel. Then I'll click on the blank worksheet. Then let's start creating our columns. So it's a housing system. So I have my first field, which is the house. And then so make sure not to put any space over here, just write house. Then we'll have the size of the house, so size. So I always start with capital, so the H here is capital and the S here over here, and the X over here is capital. Then we'll have the price of the house. So we have the house, the size, then we'll have the price. So let's start by putting some demo house names. So I can just write any names. I can write something like Sunset Villa. So then I'll press enter to come to the next row. So I can have maybe lake. Can I spell lake? So lakeside lodge. So lakeside lodge. So I'm just using random names over here. So I can have another house, maybe Rose Cottage. Then I'll press enter. Then we can have River Bend Retreat. So River Bend Retreat. So retreat. Then I'll press enter again. Then we can have Johnson House. Oh, let me fix my Johnson. So Johnson. So now let's head over to the size. So for the Sunset Villa, I'll simply put the size maybe 2000. I think 2000 is okay. Then here we'll have 2500, and then we'll have maybe 3000, and then we can have 4000. And then for the Johnson house, I'll leave this blank and we'll try to clean it. So just leave it blank over here for the size. Then we'll come to the price. So for the price, this will be $1,000, I think $1,000. So $1,000 or whatever currency you go with. So 1,000, so 1,000, 2, 1200. Then let's go with 2000, and then 3500. Then for the Johnson house over here, I'll leave it blank again. Then I'll scroll down. Then we can put some demo data to here. So I can just put 7000 over here, and then I'll put maybe 6000. So let me 5000. Let me just leave it. So we have some anomalies over here. So if you check this row, that's the row, the number 7, there's nothing for the house. And if you check your Johnson house, is it Johnson or Jason, whatever you call it, whether Johnson or Jason is correct. So Johnson or Jason house. Then if you come to the size over here, then if you come to the size over here, there's nothing. And if you come to the price, I leave it blank. So I intentionally did this so we can have anomalies to fix. So now let's try to save the file in a CSV format. So to save our file, I'll simply click on file, then save as, and then I'll choose the location. So I'll click on this PC. So let me double click on this PC. I'll select my desktop since I have my folder on my desktop. So I'll select my desktop. So this is my folder, data analytics. So I'll simply select the folder, and then I can drop the data. So I can call this records. Can I spell records? Records. So now I have it saved over there. Did I just save an Excel file? Let me see. Let me open and check. So I've just saved an Excel file. We need a CSV file. So just delete the records again. So delete the file. So I'll select the file, then I'll delete it. Once I try to delete it, they'll say try again because we have it open over here. So what I'll do next is I'll resave the file again. Now I'll click on my file, then I'll go to my save as, this PC. Then we are still in the folder, the data analytics folder. So what I'll do is I'll right click, then I'll create a new folder. So a new folder, then I can call this folder data. Then I'll double click on my data folder, and then here I'll simply change the save as type over here to CSV. So select this CSV into brackets with ms/dos or dos, whatever you call it is correct. So CSV brackets opening ms what, select it. Then we have the file name records, then click on save. So do you want to keep using that format? Just click on yes, and then you can close it. Click on don't save, and then if we come, we'll have our data folder, and if you double click, we'll have our records over here. So let's go back to our data analytics folder, and then we'll click the records Excel sheet we mistakenly created. So I'll select it, then I'll click it, then I'll delete it rather. So we have everything over here. So you can simply open this folder with any text editor. So I'm using VS Code. So if you are using PyCharm, open it with your PyCharm. Since I'm using VS Code, I'll simply come. So I have my VS Code over here, or I can simply search for my VS Code. So VS Code, and then I'll double click to open my VS Code. So let me expand this. So I have my VS Code open over here. So I'll click on file, then I'll click on open folder, then I'll select my desktop, then my data analytics, then I'll click on select folder. I'll click on yes, I trust authors. So now we have the folder open over here, and we have our data folder, and we have our records.csv. So if you click on the records.csv, you have your data over here. Let me close everything, and then next I'll click on my data analytics folder. So this is the folder wrapping everything. So that's the root directory. So I'll create a new Python file. So I click on new file over here, then I can have main.py file. So I have my main.py file. So now what I want to do is use Pandas to simply read the data I have created. So if you check, the file is inside my data folder over here. So I'll simply import. Let me start with my imports. So imports. So this is a comment I've just created over here. or let me just remove it. So let me write import pandas. Can I spell pandas? Pandas as PD. So import pandas as PD, and then we'll come over here. Then we'll have our file location. So file underscore location. Then I'll set my file location to then the location of the file. So it's inside the data folder. Then you put a / then the name of your file. So if we check, the name of the file is records.csv. So I'll call my records.csv. Then I'll save it over here. So this is our file location or our file URI. So now I can scroll down to my next line, then I'll try to read from the file. So I can have a variable, I'll call it records. Let me increase the size. Then I'll evaluate it to pd dot, we have a method which is the read underscore csv. Then you open your parentheses, and inside the parentheses you pass your file location. So I'll pass my file location over here. So now if I try to print, so let me print the records out, so records, and then I'll save. Then I'll right click, run code. Then if we scroll, this is the data over here. So this is the data, and if we check the Johnson house, we have null values over here. And if you check your fifth row over here, we have the null value for our house. So now we'll try to clean these records over here. So we can choose to simple drop everything. So we can choose to drop everything over here, or we can simply choose to give a name to this fifth record, and then we'll drop the Johnson house. So what do I mean? So let me clear the output and let me close this. So I'm using Code Runner, by the way. So if you are not using Code Runner, you can simply click on your extension tab, so extensions, and then you can search for Code Runner. So Code Runner, then you click on install to simply install it. So I already have my Code Runner installed, so you can just search for it and install it. And if you are using PyCharm, I think you already have this Code Runner on pre-installed on PyCharm. So if you are using VS Code and you don't have the Code Runner, just click on the extensions tab, search for Code Runner, and install the first extension that pops up. So let me simply remove this, and then now we'll try cleaning. So cleaning, can I spell cleaning? So cleaning. So now if we print, let me simply print the data back. So records, then I'll save with Ctrl S, then I'll run my code. So now what we'll try to do is give a value to this fifth record over here. So we'll give a name or a house name to it, and then we'll drop the fourth record over here. So we can come and then we'll try to get the column, and the name of the column is house. So if we check the column over here, the column is house. So I'll come, then I'll grab the house column. So to grab the house column, I'll write records, then I'll put square brackets, then I'll have house like so. So I think I started it with capital, so house. Then I'll use the filter, so filter, then I'll open, then we'll pass our value in a form of a dictionary. So we'll pass the value over here in a form of a Python dictionary. So sorry, we are supposed to remove this, so just remove this house over here, and then we'll bring it over here. So the key is our house. So you pass a Python dictionary, and the key is the house. So the key will be the column you want to fill. So it's the house column, and next is the value we want to fill it with. So we can fill it with lake view. So lake view, so that's the name of the house, so lake view. And then I'll put comma, and then I'll come over here, then I'll use the in place true. So in place true. Now this will set lake view. So now this will change this null over here to lake view. So now if I try to print my records, so records, and then I save, then I run my code, then I scroll, Now we'll have lake view added to our null place over here. So now we no longer have null for our 5th row. So now let's try to drop this JSON house over here. Is it Jason or Johnson? I think Johnson sounds nice, so let's go with Johnson. I think Jason is JavaScript, so Johnson house. So let's try to drop this column, not column really, row. So let's try dropping the row. So to drop the row, I'll simply use records, then I'll call dot, then drop na. So can I spell drop na? So drop na. So drop na, then it's a method or is it a function? Then we'll come. So now this will simply drop all the rows with null value. So any row with null value will be dropped. So now if I print my records, so records, and then I simply right click and then I run my code, and then we come over here. Now let me scroll. We have our Johnson house still added. So I think the problem with our code over here is that we have to evaluate a variable to this in order to get the data with the drop rows. So we can have a dictionary, so we can have a variable records again, just write the same records over here. So now we are reassigning the drop now. So now we are reassigning to this variable records. So records is equals to records dot drop now. So this will simply drop all the invalid rows, and then we'll save it to this variable. So we didn't have the variable, that was our problem. So now if I right click and then I run my code, so now if we check, we don't have the Johnson house, and we now have a clean data. So now we have Sunset Villa, everything set all right. So we don't have any data with null values. So let me play the output, and now we can try to plot this with matplotlib. So let's try to plot our graph. So plotting, can I spell plotting? So plotting. So before we start, let's go on top and then we'll import numpy to create our data set. So numpy, import numpy to create our data arrays. So numpy as np, then we can import matplotlib.pyplot. Can I spell pyplot? So pyplot as plt. So I have numpy as np and matplotlib.pyplot as plt. So now let's try to grab our size and then our price columns and use them to create a graph for our data set. So how do we grab the columns? So if we want to grab the size prop, we can simply use records, then I'll put square brackets, then I'll pass size, then I'll use dot values. So this will return that column. So the size column will be returned to us. So we can create a variable and then we'll simply evaluate it to those values. So I can have it as sizes, so size or sizes. So let me call it sizes. Then this makes sense. So now if I print, so let's print sizes, and then I save. Let me save, and then I'll run my code. So now we have the sizes returned to us over here. So now let's convert this to a numpy array. So I can have sizes again, then I'll set it equals to, so let me just remove this, and then I'll put maybe y. So let me put x values. So x values, so the sizes will be used for the x axis, and then we'll have the prices used for the y axis. So we'll have x values and I'll set it equals to, then I'll use np.array to create my array, and then I'll pass my sizes. So sizes. So now we'll have a numpy array over here for our sizes. So now let's do it for our prices. So is it price or prices? So I think it's price. So we can have prices, then I'll set it equals to records, then square brackets, and the name of the column there is price, then I'll use dot values. So dot values, Then we can come to have our y values. So that will be for the y section. So y value np.array to create an array, and then I'll open my array, then I'll wrap my prices over here. So we have the prices over here converted to a numpy array, and we have the sizes converted to a numpy array. I can simply print both of them. So I can print my x value, so x underscore values, then I'll give space, and then I can print my y underscore values. So now if I save and then I right click, run my code, and then if we come, we are having problem. We are having price over here. So I think there's a problem with our price. So let me try to fix it. We have records, then we have price, we have dot values. So let me open back my CSV file. So this is the problem. So the price over here is capital, it's starting with capital. Meanwhile, inside here our price is starting with smaller case p. So change it to smaller case. So to avoid having problems, make sure that how you name your columns or how you name your columns is the same as how you try to access them. So now if I save, then I run my code, then I scroll, I think we have our size, and then we'll have our prices over here. So let me clear the output. So now let's use them to plot the graph. So to plot the graph, I'll simply use plt. Let me set the graph attributes. So first I'll set the title, so plt.title, then I'll open with parentheses, then I can call this housing and pricing. So house sizes, so sizes and prices. So I think this is okay. And then we can come to set our x and then our y. So we can set x values, so plt.x label, so x label, then I'll open. So this will be our label for our x axis. So our x, so I'll put a string, so quotations. So I think our x values is for the sizes. So I'll write sizes or house sizes. So house sizes. Then we'll have plt.y label. So the y label will be for our prices. So we'll have house prices over here. We have the x label for house sizes, we have the y label for house prices. So now if I come and then I try to plot it, so I'll use plt.plot, then we'll pass the x and then we'll pass the y. So I can pass x values and then I'll pass my y underscore values. So now if I use plt.show, so I think .show, and then I save, let me save, and then I'll run my code. So now if I run my code and then we'll have this graph over here. So we have the house prices over here, and then we'll have the house sizes over here, and this is the graph over here. So we can also set some attributes to our graph. I can use plt.grade, so plt.grade to add grade lines, and then I can right click, run my code, and now if we check, we'll have these grade lines added over here. So this is the grade lines we just added. So you can also add markers, so I can come over here, and then we can even use O. So if you put O over here and then you save and then you right click and then you run your code and then you come, now we'll have the points and we will not have the lines shown to us. We already have the points, we don't have the lines. So when the house size was 2000, the price is 1000, so 2500, and now the price have increased. So the price increase if the size increase. So let me close this and let me close this again. And we can also add markers, so I can add marker and then I can set it equals to, then I can put asterisk here and then I'll change the marker. So now if I run my code and then I come. Now if we check, we have asterisks instead of those smaller circles. So let's show our line again. So let me remove this, and then I'll save, and then I'll run my code, and then we'll have our graph shown to us.